I think that you've started exchanging. That's good, but you're about to start. So if you're okay, I'm going to take over from now. So I'm going to share. I'm going to start sharing my presentation with you. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to switch to French now. Donc, bienvenue à tous.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this first webinar, REA-Bridge Africa, on entrepreneurship as a driver of growth and social transformation in Africa. Before starting,
en deux langues, en français et en anglais. Donc, vous avez la
please note that there will be two languages, French and English. At the bottom of your screen, you can choose the language of your choice. The webinar is recorded. You might have seen the pop-up message, and the recording will be available on YouTube on our ANIMA YouTube channel. And also during the webinar, can you please mute your microphones if you're not speaking? And if you want to take the floor, could you please raise your hand or ask for the floor in the chat? So you can use the chat box to write a few words about, well, how you're feeling, what your name is, your organization, and the country you are in right now. Before starting, a few words about our REA-Bridge Africa project. Not everybody must be aware of what it truly is. It's a project that was initiated by the Presidential Council for Africa, and it's funded by the MEAE and implemented by a consortium bringing together Business France and ANIMA Investment Network. We're located here in Marseille in the south of France. The project is developed around three pillars. Between 2020 and 2021, the MEAE funded the creation of 16 REAs, Entrepreneurship Networks in Africa. And this REA-Bridge project aims at structuring those networks and bringing them together and building bridges. And you can see here on the screen the link to our webpage. As I said, we want to support these networks to structure themselves and to make sure that their impact lives on. We organized the first training in September. Others will follow. And we also aim at twinning several networks. So I'm sure that we'll hear a little bit about it. Twinning means bringing together 2 or 3 networks for them to work together and to share good practices, expertise, and so on. And the idea here is to create a partnership dynamic between networks, but also with the French ecosystem. We have missions in French, but we also have French delegations going to Africa in some countries in order to meet with these networks. We also have a mentoring program for entrepreneurs, members of these networks, and mentors are part of the African diaspora. And also we organize more general business meetings, either online or physical. So this is a few words about the project, but will remain available for any further question that you may have. So twinning program. Here we have short technical twinning programs What is it? Well, we have joint projects between peer organizations, depending on their needs, can be programs for expertise, business links, cross-promotion, and we offer financial support for travel costs up to 1,300 euros per participating network. And so if we have other networks present today, if you're interested, and that you haven't been twinned yet, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And you'll get to meet other networks today. We'll discover 3 or 4 today. And today we're going to talk about economic development. This is the webinar for today. So some of you might have already attended other webinars organized by ANIMA. So these are monthly digital meetings to discuss the latest trends. And today we're going to be talking about the REA-Bridge project. And this is the first one of the series. There will be others. The next one should be around January or February. I'll get back to you as soon as the date, as soon as I have the exact date. I will let you know at the end of this presentation. But the objective of this webinar series is to bring answers to questions around a topic of interest. And today we'll have several speakers presenting this topic, presenting their experience and expertise, giving leads and perspectives for the future. All webinars are available online, as I said, on our ANIMA YouTube channel. So if you missed the previous webinars and if you're interested, don't hesitate to go on YouTube and watch them. And today's webinar will also be available on our YouTube channel. And should you have to leave us before the end, well, once again, you can watch the end of it on YouTube. Topic of the day: entrepreneurship as a driver of growth and social transformation in Africa. Quite a large topic, and we wanted it to be quite large for this first webinar. And we know in Africa there are more than 1 billion inhabitants, 54 countries, 2,000 languages. So today, with our 3 speakers, we'll hear about the various ecosystems in Africa, in Gambia, Senegal, and Kenya and Burkina Faso. And they're all part of an entrepreneurship network in Africa, the REAs, and they are active in several sectors. And we'll see how these entrepreneurs create wealth and contribute to social development in their country. As you know, in Africa, socioeconomic transformations are significant. Economic growth, demographic growth, urbanization, new sources of revenue, transformations, role of the diaspora, but changes, problems in the economy, informal economy, the status of entrepreneurs. So the question is, what is the place of entrepreneurs in this very specific context? Today, we will also see that women entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs is also an important issue. Why? Because they are participating to the emancipation of the most discriminated against groups on the labor market. And entrepreneurs have found a solution for these discriminated groups of population. Because as an entrepreneur, you create your own job, you emancipate yourself, and you can redefine your own place within society. in a more global context of technological developments, technological constraints, social justice is an important issue. We have several questions about regulation, society, and what needs to be done for social transformation, which is our topic of the day. And this also poses questions between partnerships between the private and the public sector at national or international level, and therefore, good initiatives should be promoted for a more liberal entrepreneurship. So we'll have questions about including also about the role of the state in Africa. And let me conclude with this, and I will give the floor to the next speaker. We'll also have a few questions about the link between entrepreneurship and innovation. Innovation is such a broad term: social, management, innovation, and it's also linked to technological progress. But innovating actually means coming up with new solutions to specific challenges specific to a region or a country. So there are several challenges: sustainable development, climate change, but also other more specific challenges linked to infrastructure or the food chain. And this is where it's very interesting to see what's being done in certain African countries, because new alternative solutions are emerging, what is called organic innovation, which means that a solution will be brought to each level in order to guarantee a sustainable development and to improve any company's performance thanks to this type of innovation. These are just a few words of introduction to contextualize the debate. But I think that I have said enough. So without further ado, let me present our speakers. We'll have 3 speakers today. Let me start with Hélène Guéhenneuc. I hope that I'm not mispronouncing your name. Founder and director of Third Place MAHNA, a platform to facilitate the professionalization of the youth It aims at improving employability of the youth, which means having the right skills to enter the labor market. Then we'll give the floor.
Just to introduce David, who is an English speaker. So David Cheboryot. Hi, I see you. He's East Africa manager of E4 Impact Foundation in Kenya, which is a non-profit organization that was launched in 2010, right? By Altis, the Graduate School of Business and Society of the Catholic University of Milan in Italy. And with the objective of training impact entrepreneurs in the developing world in order to support the startup and growth of their businesses. And in Kenya, it is registered as a non-profit organization, right, with its HQ in Nairobi. And finally, je reviens en français.
And I'm moving back to French. Mathieu Bécue, Innovation and Digital Economy Cooperation Attaché at the French Embassy in Senegal. And I think he joined, he took this role in September. Before this, he worked in South Africa. So he's active in 2 REAs in South Africa, one on women entrepreneurship and the second one on agriculture. And now in Senegal, he manages 2 REAs, the one in Senegal and the one of Gambia. That is it for me.
Je vais trouver comment l'arrêter, mais je vais commencer donc
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning to all speakers. I hope that you are all here. Good morning. Good morning, David. Good morning, Mathieu. Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Hello.
Thank you for accepting our invitation and being with us today. So I'm going to start this webinar by asking a general question to all of you. My question will be, can you please tell me what are the main existing social and economic development challenges in your national ecosystems, and how you think entrepreneurship can help overcome them? And what are the main actions taken by your respective organizations in that direction? So obviously, I'm going to start with Hélène because women first. If Mathieu, David agree, yeah, okay. Donc Hélène, si tu peux, voilà, répondre à cette première question.
On est sûr que la traduction, ça marche
Hélène,
bien, tout va bien.
we're sure that is the translation working correctly? Yeah.
Je prends le luxe de parler en français.
Very well. So I'll be speaking French. Thank you.
Du coup, donc au Burkina Faso, nous,
In Burkina Faso,
un des challenges les plus importants, c'est justement l'employabilité des jeunes.
the main challenge is youth employability. But on the other hand, companies have a hard time finding talents, professional skills within the country. So today, that is the main challenge. Young people who were lucky enough to study, they have diplomas, masters, and so on, but they don't have professional skills. These are mostly theoretical skills, and they do not know the world of work, the labor market. At the end of their studies, they're told you have two options. Either you try and become a civil servant, you pass the competition to become a civil servant, or you continue in this direction and you become a professor or a researcher. And this is where there is a real break with the private market. There is no link with companies. During studies, there are very few traineeships for a first professional experience. So most young graduates are told, well, maybe you should become an entrepreneur. However, if that doesn't work, they're told you should become an entrepreneur. But being an entrepreneur is not the last recourse. It's not the last chance. It's something quite difficult, and you need to know what to do and how to do it. So what we want to do is to act as a bridge for these young graduates who want to become an entrepreneur. We help them to find their way. Professionally speaking, most young graduates end up working in a sector completely different from what they studied for. So we try and give them professional orientation to young people who do want to become entrepreneurs. And also we help them to be capable of doing so, because some of them, well, want to start their company, but they do not know how to. So sometimes we can also support them to find a first job, to make ends meet, and support them create their company on the side in the first time. So what do we do? Well, for example, we meet with young graduates. They give us their resumes, and then they say, well, I have nobody is calling me back. So we help them to find a job, to write a resume, to find a traineeship. And many graduates come to us and they say, look, I have a project. But our graduates, they didn't really know the two different types of support we would give. So we had to explain, this is what the type of support we can provide you with. And so when we give them a traineeship on the labor market, on the private sector, on becoming an entrepreneur, then realize that the labor market is maybe not for them. And so they sometimes graduates decide not to become an entrepreneur and go to our employability program in order to find a job within a company. So we support them, we help them, we act as a bridge to figure out what they want to do and how they want to do it. So there's this gap, as I said, and as I said, there are many companies dealing with the impossibility to find the right talents. They have vacancies, but they cannot find people with the right skills, the right competences. So companies approach us to, for example, provide professional trainings in order to make sure that these gaps, these skill gaps can be filled. All right, thank you. So one question. Do you work with companies already, or is that a plan? Is this what you're going to do in order for universities to include in their curriculum, let's say, a training or courses on entrepreneurship? And then with the companies you work with, do they approach you? Do they know you? How does that work? So yes, we do work with universities. It's a long process. It takes time to build bridges. But let's say the last year bachelor or the second year master, we offer modules for the post-study life, and we offer modules to universities. We include them in their curriculums, and this helps students to figure out what they want to do after graduation. And today, well, companies also approach us. For example, we organize an orientation day on May the 1st, and this year we had 1,500 graduates and about 30 companies who came. And these companies are here not to recruit, but to give advice. In other words, it's a possibility for young people to meet with professionals, and they say, look, this is what I want to do. What should I do? How should I behave in a job interview? What should I write on my CV? What type of skills should I acquire? And then we also have other types of training. So motivation letter, job interview, how do you contact a company? How do you send a spontaneous application? And so during this day, we already had 2 editions. We got some visibility and other companies learned about us. A company called REA was looking for 30 trainees in Burkina Faso in the Ivory Coast. And we got in touch with a lot of engineering companies to identify the right talents, to find the right trainees, and well, everything went well. They all did their trainees, and at the end, many were recruited by companies. Well, very well, very interesting.
L'entrepreneuriat, bon, comme on dit au début, c'est une manière de créer son propre emploi et de trouver des solutions à un problème d'employabilité, mais aussi,
so as you said, there's a need to build a bridge, and becoming an entrepreneur is no easy task. You can try, but you need skills. So I fully agree with you. The programs you provide are complementary. Thank you very much for this great presentation. Thank you, Ellen. So I see that the clock is ticking. Let me give the floor to David.
Mathieu. So same question about the challenges in terms of social and economic development, and how you think entrepreneurship can help overcome them in your ecosystem, and what are the main actions that you have with E4Impact Foundation?
All right. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly. Yes, as you've heard, I'm David from Kenya. And I'll just give you a bit of a background so that everyone understands Kenya, where I'm coming from, and also these socioeconomic challenges. So until 2019, Kenya was actually one of the fastest growing economies in Africa, with an average growth rate of about 5.9% GDP from 2010 to 2018. And we actually recently became a middle income status country. So we are actually very diversified and with a dynamic economy. Actually, we are referred to as the digital savannah, just because we managed to launch M-Pesa and other digital platforms. And we are also the entry point to the East African market that has more than 300 million population. But even with this kind of progress, we still have socioeconomic challenges that really affect sustainable and inclusive growth. So some of the challenges that we face are really challenges to do with maybe sometimes corruption and economic inequality and lack of employment. Actually, they say that 2/3 of the Kenya live below the poverty line. And majority of those are actually women and girls. And so who really suffer from what is what you call chronic vulnerability. And there's a very large gap between the rich and the poor. And these are some of the challenges that we face. So in some rural areas, there's still issues around poor nutrition, food insecurity, diseases, and so on. And anyway, these inequalities have to be dealt with in one way or another. So this is at a country level. At the entrepreneurial level, and some of the challenges that are faced by some of our entrepreneurs, really, many times are lack of entrepreneurial skills. Because sometimes, and our previous speaker spoke about, as in many times people fall into entrepreneurship as a form of necessity. Not because they wanted to be, but because they didn't have something to do. So they fall into entrepreneurship for lack of a job and so on. So, and in this way they lack, let's say, skills to run businesses. They still also lack of adequate finance and limited access to credit. If you're a small or a young entrepreneur, you need to provide some security to get a loan in a bank, and many times maybe you don't have that. The other challenge that entrepreneurs face are new regulations, new forms of taxes, and the government keeps increasing or introducing new forms of taxes every other time. And this is really a bit stifling to young entrepreneurs. And then I think I've spoken about the lack of entrepreneurial skills and knowledge, because people venture into it and without proper skills before. And then the last challenge, which I would think affects entrepreneurs particularly, sometimes poor infrastructure if you're in some rural areas. And as if for impact, sometimes we work in some rural communities. There is lack of infrastructure, poor roads. There's sometimes high cost of electricity or lack of electricity completely. And this stifles the business, or if they wanted to do some business, this then becomes a stifling factor. So these are some of the socioeconomic challenges that face Kenya in general and actually entrepreneurs in particular. But I think that what are entrepreneurs doing to overcome them? And this is a good question, really, because I think really entrepreneurship in Kenya is really the engine for growth. And over the last period, even the development sector has actually realized this, and now they're pushing more for what you'd call from aid to trade. How do you support more trade instead of just development aid and handout? Because through trade, it's more sustainable. And I think that what entrepreneurs do to overcome these challenges, for sure they identify existing opportunities in the market. We've had entrepreneurs within our programs who, because of the social challenges they came or they were raised up in, when they grow up and they have an opportunity, they think, I must solve this challenge. So they identify challenges and turn them into business opportunities. So this is one thing that entrepreneurs are doing. And then the second thing that they do is that they create employment opportunities. Actually, one of our motto, as if for impact, is that we work with job creators, not job seekers. We actually want to work with people who create jobs, first for themselves, and then secondly for others. And we see this as really a key role that entrepreneurs are doing. For sure, they are contributing to the national income. They pay taxes and so on, and it's a good thing. And then we've seen entrepreneurs coming up with solutions, maybe construction, infrastructural solutions. We have one of our alumni company that has come up with affordable building hardware. So from plastic waste to creating building blocks or bricks from just plastic waste. So this is what the innovations from the entrepreneurs bring. And then we've seen also the contribution to community development, as in where there is entrepreneurial activity, most times there is already community that is engaged, because then if you have a small factory, you're sourcing from the community, and all that community is engaged, and this is bringing economic development. So these are really maybe a bit of some of the opportunities which entrepreneurs are tapping into and responding to the prior existing socioeconomic challenges. So to your third question, what are we doing specifically as E4 Impact to respond to these challenges? So E4 Impact, we actually have 3 goals that we actually implement. One is to train and coach a new generation of impact entrepreneurs. And here we actually underline the word impact entrepreneurs, because they could either be called social or impact entrepreneurs. And these are entrepreneurs who care about the triple bottom line. So they want to have economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. So we have many training programs that we work with them to work with this group. Then we also develop partnership and market linkages between Europe and Africa, so that some of our entrepreneurs, we introduce them to the European market to trade and do business and have some technological transfer. And then the third thing that we do as E4 Impact is we have a partnership with several African universities, actually right now 18 of them, who run our Impact Entrepreneurship MBA program. And we work with these African universities to become the leading voice of impact entrepreneurship in their country. So I think that with an evolution and what we've done over years, so more than 10 years of, let's say, running the MBA program, we've actually now moved from what we call the MBA program, which was the niche program we were having, to what we are calling entrepreneurship centers. And this is really to make entrepreneurship more popular, as in to the local persons. Because at the MBA level, it would mean that we are dealing with people who already have undergraduates. But with the entrepreneurship centers, we're able to serve everyone at any level. So we are working with startups, we're working with rural entrepreneurs, we're working with smallholder farmers, and just bringing entrepreneurship skills and capacity building for them to be able to not consider themselves as farmers, but agri-entrepreneurs, people who, through the trade or the common thing they're doing, they start to perceive themselves as entrepreneurs. And for sure, this means a lot of mindset change for someone, women, youth, to still consider themselves as entrepreneurs. And so there is really a lot of changing attitudes that we are seeing. Right now in Kenya than before, if you are in a failure in the past, then you would go into entrepreneurship. But right now, with the successful entrepreneurs that I imagine, it's starting to seem like entrepreneurship is cool. It's actually cool to be an entrepreneur. It's actually cool as a young person, either in high school or university, to start thinking about launching a business. Then, so these are, let's say, pull factors that are really pushing us to get into popular entrepreneurship. And then we have some push factors, as in now the donor community is really investing into enterprise development. As in we're working with different donors, the EU, the French Development Corporation, the French Embassy, the World Bank, AFDB, USA, Danida, and they're investing into programs like ours that are really supporting entrepreneurship. And also the African governments are actually doing something to also promote entrepreneurship. So upskilling of youth in digital entrepreneurship, as in countries are making the ease of doing business in Africa is becoming easier and easier. If you have to think about a country like Rwanda, maybe it takes you a day to register your business. It's a great thing. And this is a cool thing. And then there is also a rise of impact investing in Africa. And this is how it's supporting entrepreneurship, and us as E4 Impact, we are tapping into this impact investing space. And just to give you some statistics, in our last two cohorts of acceleration programs, we actually managed to support our entrepreneurs raise up to $3 million US of investment, of external investment. And this was a great thing. So right now we are serving more than 2,000 entrepreneurs in our different programs, where we are giving them a lot of support. So market linkages, fundraising, and linking them to investors. We're supporting them increase their revenues by working to farm up their business models. We are working to support them with compliance and processes issues, and also to rebrand and give them publicity and visibility in the local market, and also through the digital platform, so that they can actually be able to sell even online and attract buyers and customers abroad. So this is the role that we are really playing. Yeah, so that's what I could tell you as in terms of, let's say, the challenges, what entrepreneurs are doing, and what we are doing as for impact to really respond and handhold and build the capacity of the entrepreneurs we are working with. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was a very comprehensive picture. I thought I was in Kenya with you, so that's perfect. Before I go to Mathieu, we have a question in the chat box asking whether you have experience in matching funds from different sources, public and private, and to put in place blended finance mechanisms for impact-driven enterprises. And because you talked about, how many funds you managed to raise for entrepreneurs, but maybe you can tell us a bit more about the sources of this funding, whether private, public, how it works.
Yeah, so I actually mentioned, and I'd say that in the last, let's say, 2 cohorts, we managed to raise about 3 million USD for the entrepreneurs we are working with. So it was 2 cohorts of about 40 entrepreneurs. Some of that funding actually came from corporate sources. So we work with the energy company, and they actually gave us 150,000 as grants. And this sort of was a catalytic funding, because if an entrepreneur who we had given a grant of even 10,000 or 15,000 euro was able to show that they had already had some initial grant, then it was easy for them to get private equity funding. And so it's sort of a blended, and even with the French embassy here in Kenya, we've run some competition, and they've even given some awards. So sometimes we're able to get some award or prize money, as in from some sources. Right now, in our new cohort of acceleration program, we have almost up to 750,000 euro, which we're going to give out as seed equity and a bit of a revolving fund. And it's a small amount if you're to look at, I don't know, you're serving, 100 enterprises, but it catalyzes enough, and it actually shows proof that this is an investable business. And with this initial sort of funding, then it's easy for an external impact fund to see that this company has already attracted a bit of financing and can actually match up or actually invest in that business. But I think that the networking with the impact investment world is very critical. But we have to look at it from the entire spectrum, from the ones that let's say invest from early or idea stage to the one that actually go to private or equity financing. But it's a lot of work, but it's also interesting. And if your entrepreneur is able to raise, 500,000 euro or $1 million, you're really proud about such a result, because you know the kind of impact it would have. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Du coup, Mathieu, je passe à toi.
So I switched to French once again. It is interesting to have you with us, because you have a different point of view, because you work for the French embassy. And so you can see things from a cooperation point of view as well. As I said, you were before in South Africa, and you worked over there on 2 networks, one oriented on women entrepreneurship for farmers, if I am not mistaken. Now you are in Senegal. In Senegal, you created an entrepreneur network which worked really well, which is Teranga Tech, more oriented on tech, clean tech, agri-tech, fintech, all the words we can put the tech at the end of. And you also manage the Pan-African network for entrepreneurs. So I'd like you to give us some information of the challenges that you might have seen during this creation, and the importance of entrepreneurship to respond to these challenges, and what is the role of cooperation and French cooperation, namely, that decided to invest into entrepreneurship in Africa. Thank you very much to you, Raphaële. Thank you very much, Hélène and David, who already said really a lot. It gave us a lot of food for thought. Of course, the main problem is the lack of job, lack of work, and the capacity of the labor market to respond to this need. In this particular context, there are two things: the capacity of companies to recruit through their development, and the capacity the skill to imagine new companies to be created. That's why we put the accent in the development of entrepreneurship, where there are particular demographic situation. Youngsters still have their future to build, so it's something really interesting to tap into. Everything, of course, respond to major challenges. What David said, namely, we do not want to be helped to be aid, but we want to create companies, to create value, and to create business. Sorry, I think we lost Mathieu. They have a fundamental role facing opportunities which are quite important on the continent. To give you some idea, the access to energy and energy transformation, access to water and development of access to water, the growth and the management of waste, the food safety, and so the development of a sustainable agriculture, which is still productive to respond to a demographic growth, which is important. So we see the possibility to intervene not only France, with all our European partners. We work together. There are important work that have been done by our friends in Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, UK. So we are not working alone. We try to work together and to coordinate, because there are multiple actions that we can implement. So the problem there is to better articulate our action to avoid redundancies. So what has been done in this last year, for instance, 3.5 billion euro invested in the African continent. This has given us the possibility to the financial system to respond to entrepreneurship. David said it. Funding mechanisms are different and multiple, so we need to think about new strategies for entrepreneurship and try to structure the networks of business angels and venture capitalists, and to organize the investment that they made. Once again, David underlined that there is another major challenge when we talk about entrepreneurship. Is this skill to support entrepreneurs. Hélène said it as well. So the skill, the capacity to support entrepreneurs. So how can we get them to get more professional, to professionalize themselves? There is a challenge for professionalization of these structures. There have been actions that have been carried out for Europe with Africa. There are free labs. There are several situations. We do it in Gambia with the REA project, but we also try to support the structures that support entrepreneurship. I see Cindy here, for instance, that take part to our projects. The objectives of the REA is to support the entrepreneurs network, to facilitate their inception, their creation, to support them, and to to create services that they can use and to introduce them to other network, European mainly. There have been several ways to do that. We've had incubators, we had other solutions, and not only companies network, but this is one of the major things that we do. Why is that important? Because that allows to everybody to understand the job of others and to consolidate. So we invested in this consolidation in South Africa on agriculture. Of course, this is quite self-evident. There is a long list in South Africa that brings us to think about the emergency of the farming system for the weakest population that are in this business, and the female and women entrepreneurship, because we know that this is quite high, but it has a hard time developing, and the access to funding is one of the paramount levers that we can use and leverage to support and to develop women entrepreneurship. This represents at the moment only 2% of the world entrepreneurship. So you see the difficulties they have to tap into the market. So we work to support initiatives that seem to be interesting. Women in Africa, women investment capital. So we work in this and working throughout the value chain. So we try to support really precisely entrepreneurs and not a large cohort of entrepreneurs. We created tools and incubators to help them. And the component on which we want to focus and insist is the structuring of the investor network and the visibility of the entrepreneurial network in Senegal by the investors, business angels, impact investors, and so on and so forth. And we are thinking of a pilot project in Senegal that we hope we will be able to upscale and implement in other countries. Thank you. Thank you very much for having raised this question of the value chain, because it's true that when we look at entrepreneurship, we are not only talking about entrepreneurs, we are talking about all the stakeholders around them. And Hélène said that as well. You also talked about this question of investments and visibility of entrepreneurship by investors. So the support has to be done throughout the value chain, because otherwise, if there is a weak link in this chain, this will not work. Yeah, just let me tap in to say it is a great problem in international cooperation on the continent. There is a lack of visibility of the actions that are carried out by each country, and it is quite rare to have an action on the three components of funding, network, and entrepreneurship. So we need to work on these three at the same time in parallel. Thank you very much. I see a question. You know, in ANIMA, we work a lot also with the Mediterranean. So I see several examples of north of Africa, so Algeria. Murad says hello. We already worked together in cluster of entrepreneurs, and I'm working with them on another project, so I'd like to say hello to them. And we have a person, Nebat El Amin, saying that in Algeria, the government is putting in place a system that encourages startups, and he's asking about a mechanism. I do not know which mechanism he's talking about, but there is something that is really known in Northern Africa is Tunisia. They done the Starter Act. So maybe you do have similar mechanisms implemented by the government where you are. Is that in Morocco also there was the creation of the status of the role of auto entrepreneur, who fostered a lot of the growth of entrepreneurship. So do you have similar solutions in your countries? What are the examples of mechanisms implemented by the government, and do they work? I don't know if any of you would like to start to respond. Hélène? Yeah, for the Startup Act, it happened in Senegal, so Mathieu will be able to talk about that. In Burkina, we have a movement called I4 Policy, not in Burkina, over the whole continent, but we've had a lot of activity, and this has allowed us to go further to develop the auto entrepreneur status. But there's another status that we work on, is the student entrepreneur one. And also IUF has been working a lot on this. They have a project on this. In Burkina, we are just starting, but there's a lot of thinking, a lot of reflection. And I wanted to say something about what Mathieu said on the value chain, because of course it is an enormous problem. We see in Burkina, we have a network, we call that the Federation of the Saroit. We and each and every one of these networks try to federate, because we realize that there are incubators everywhere, and there is a lot of funding, because it's quite trendy for the moment. So we ask ourselves, what are the institutional structures that are trustworthy, that work really well? Since we have a good point of view on the ecosystem, there is a lot of job training, but there is no training to foster innovation or employability, for instance. As all the people working in the SOE says, we learn from the field. So it is a good thing when you have an ecosystem allowing you to upskill, but that doesn't mean that each network has the capacity and skill to do that. And there is no system for training. One of our objectives in 2022 is to launch a training on the SOE, how to become a supporter for employability, for upskilling. I was in Dakar 2 weeks ago, and we were discussing with the free labs, and 3/4 of people would say that the trainers are really dynamic and really well trained, but the problem everybody gets is to have competent people you can explain your vision to, and they can foster and support the project from A to Z. And so they always say that the companies have hard time to find their right fit, their profile for their organization, but we have the same problem. I think that we all have upskilled in all the support process, okay? We need now to move further on SOE, on funding network, on diaspora as well. I know that with ANIMA, you have a program on diaspora, and I think it's really important. Yes, I think it's not easy for entrepreneurs. There is always some sort of a difference in between entrepreneurs, which is a full-time job, and at the same time they have some sort of support program they have attend, and most of the time they engage themselves in several things at the same time to develop their project. And there is also what you were saying, this phenomenon of being trendy at the moment, and so they find themselves with a lot of stakeholders, with a lot of institutions, a little bit lost. So a little advice to the entrepreneurs: inform you well on the different support structures, and make sure that the supports you've given are pertinent to you.
Kenya and what kind of mechanisms are existing that the state, maybe the governments, created to support actually entrepreneurship in terms of status, laws, or what is going on at the moment.
All right, great. And I'm actually picking up from what Hélène and Matthew have said, because I think these are very pertinent points and discussions. I think in Kenya right now, recently we actually passed the Startup Act. I think we are following up the other countries like Tunisia. I was through REA-Bridge, this project, I was in South Africa, and we met with Cindy and others like three weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. And I met someone from Tunisia actually who came to participate, and they told me they're already well ahead of implementing the Startup Act. So we have already passed it, but we have not started the implementation. But I think that through such programs, let's say the REA-Bridge, which is bringing different REAs and networks, we can actually learn from countries that are a bit ahead. But the fact that we've already passed it means the Kenya government is already doing something about it. The other thing, we are part of a World Bank project. So the Kenya government took some financing from the World Bank to just strengthen their entrepreneurial ecosystem and ecosystem actors. And as if for impact, we also bid for this project, and we were finalists. I think we are just waiting for the contract to be signed. And our role would be to build capacity of other incubators and accelerators. So the fact that the Kenya government can actually, let's say through financing from, let's say, World Bank, actually decide that they would like to commit, take funding to build capacity of what they call intermediaries, so incubators and accelerators, means that they actually believe that they are creating value. So I think this is a great thing. And nowadays in Kenya, in many let's say rural counties, because a lot of accelerators and incubators are actually in Nairobi. So there's a lot of concentration of incubators and accelerators in the capital city and in the main city. But right now what they're doing as well is to try to devolve that to rural counties where they don't exist. So they're try to create digital information centers where the youth and women can go and get maybe digital skills, but also to start some local incubation and acceleration programs. So I think the Kenya government realizes that supporting entrepreneurship is key. As in we've moved, as in many, I think we were 2 years ago about 96 in ease of doing business. We got to almost 67 or something like that in the last 2 years. So also the Kenya government is trying to make it easy for Kenyan startups and companies actually to register and get to do business. Of course, the negatives about high taxes, a bit of some corruption here and there, but at least you could say that there is a positive trend and appreciation about the role of entrepreneurship and supporting of the private sector. So that's what I would say about government. But on the other two things that we've said, one is about visibility, which Matthew had tried to underline. And I would just give an example. What are we doing as if for impact to create visibility for our company? So what we did is to go to one of the leading media houses. So they're called the Standard Group. They own one of the largest newspapers. They own a TV station. They own a radio station. They own digital. And we actually told them, since you believe in entrepreneurship, we believe in entrepreneurship, can you be the visibility sponsor for all the E4 Impact programs and entrepreneurs? And they actually accepted. And so when we have to do recruitments, when they are emerging stories, innovations of our entrepreneurs, they actually put them in print or even invite them to the TV to speak about what they are doing. And this is a great thing, because if we don't champion our entrepreneurs to be visible, then it's very hard for them, let's say, to access markets or to sell. Are you still hearing me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. To sell and so on. So I think this is one of the things that we've tried to do, and it is working well for us. So it's a great thing about that. And then the other thing about value chains, and linking the value chains is just giving an example of what we managed to do in Kenya. We've actually created a digital selling platforms where our entrepreneurs in the rural areas can actually put their products. So maybe they're dealing with honey, or they're dealing with very small products produced at the rural level. They're able to put them in this digital platform and sell them online. And so embracing technology is a critical factor of success for any startups or entrepreneurs. So this is, I just want to underline that. And when you do that, you actually cut off the middlemen, because farmers and smallholder producers are always exploited by the middlemen. But if you can utilize technology where a rural smallholder farmer can produce their honey or their milk, take a picture of it, put it on a digital platform and say, I'm selling it at this price, and there is mechanisms for transportation and payment, so digital payments through mobile phone technology, which we are very known for. It's a good thing. So we are really cutting the value chain. We're cutting the middlemen in the value chain and giving value to the smallholder farmer. So this is another way in which really we can really scale and really support in a very concrete way, as in small startups and value chain actors. So these are just a bit of some examples of what we've managed to do. Yeah.
Thank you, David. So I see that it's already 11 o'clock here in Marseille. So I wanted to open the floor for more questions. But before that, I wanted to see with you if you guys had any last word or anything you wanted to share before we open the floor to questions.
Since I'm still unmuted, I can go fast, as in just as sort of my parting words or something like that. I think that we are part of, let's say, the network, the REA network, or even we are part of the ecosystem builders in our own countries. But what I've seen from experience is that we actually need to create partnerships and collaborations. This is the only way we can actually succeed. As in the African proverb that says, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. And if you want to walk far, walk with others, really holds true for ecosystem actors like ourselves. So if we want to walk far, I really appreciate that we have a network. We have this forum where we are able to share, to network with others, share experience. The mentorship that you said that is happening through this project is really, really important. And I would urge any other, let's say, ecosystem builder to really embrace a spirit of partnership and collaboration. It's only what can work for us. So those would be my comments. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Alors merci Nebat qui nous a un peu plus précisé.
So thank you very much to Noel, who talked a little bit more in detail about the mechanism, but I think it's still at the beginning. I've seen some comment. Some questions are really long. It's difficult for me to listen to the people and to read the questions at the main time. So I'd like to ask you to keep them short. Any participants would like to raise their hands or say something? I see two of you. I will start from women.
Because we have 10 more minutes, but then we will put an end to the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, am I given the floor? Thank you very much. Mine is not a question, but it's to emphasize on what Mr. Bécue has just said, and David, that partnerships and collaborations are very important, especially in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and also to use ourselves in the network of the 15 network entrepreneurship networks in the continent, so that we can get skills like what David was saying. I think for me, it's very powerful for the sake of global business women, and we can learn a lot from what he's doing now in Kenya, and we can actually share it with the South African environment as well. But also what is very important for us is what Mr. Bécue was saying. It was the support that we received from the Embassy of France through him when he was here in South Africa. And that's why the circle is still existing today, because our collaboration was actually driven by him. And now it's Matilda as well. It's still strengthened. And we really appreciate this powerful relationship. And also the support of the entrepreneurs themselves. Mr. Bécue, you won't believe it. I mean, one of our members has just been appointed as a board member for Innovators and Investors Institute here in South Africa, but also she's serving on the World Economic Forum, a young woman. And because of the exposure at the circle, we are really appreciate the support that you've given us. And we see the value now in our members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. That's very kind of you and appreciated. Thank you. Mourad, tu voulais intervenir, je crois.
Moran, would you like to say something? We cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Bon, si vous permettez, I will try to answer to our colleague from Africa organization. I think that this initiative of ANIMA is very interesting to relocalize the discussion with the south of Mediterranean country, and it is very, very interesting. And in Algeria, we, as the president of Algeria clusters, I try to include in our organization the organization of women, which is in the rural community. You know that our countries, we have women which have very big difficulties in communication and to rejoin us to the chain of valor, and our role is to procure aid to enhance their activities, because the rural economy is, I think, maybe ANIMA will organize a thematic in this field, and I will share our experience with other North African countries or African countries, because the women in our country, the population is more than 50%, and the young, les porteurs de projets are in university, young people. I think they have to make support, technical support to all this economy, the rural economy. And thank you for your understanding.
Thank you so much. So actually, that's a good way to switch. I'm just gonna, before we close, I'm gonna share more information about upcoming things. Obviously, thank you to our speakers. I really enjoyed this session. I think it was very complimentary and very interesting, and you have different points of view and different ecosystems, and it gave me a nice idea about how it works for you guys. And I hope I will see it myself soon enough. So thank you so much for participating. I will again share my screen if you allow, just to tell you a few things. Is it? Yeah. So the thing I wanted to say is come and meet us either virtually or physically. I think David will come to Emerging Valley next week. It's on December 13 and 14 in Marseille. We will have official kickoff there of the project on December 14 at Emerging Valley. But during the 2 days, you will be able to meet our Entrepreneurs Network and entrepreneurs. So, and about the upcoming webinar, so yeah, I was not sure it was January, February, so it's February, the next one on digital innovation and international outreach. Then in April, we will have placing women at the center of economic development projects in Africa. So one focusing more on women. I think we've tackled a little bit the subject, but it's nice to have a webinar specific on that. And then in June, supporting the social and solidarity economy in developing African countries. We will have also more webinars after that, but these are the next ones up until June. Do not forget that this webinar and all the other ones before are on replay on our channels. And thank you so much. Thank you, Hélène. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mathieu, or Matthew, as David will say. Thank you so much to the participants as well. I've seen that everyone stayed up until the end. So thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Merci à tous et à très vite.
Thank you all and see you soon.
Thank you.
Merci
Goodbye.
beaucoup.
Bientôt.
À bientôt.
À bientôt. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Cindy.
Thank you, Mr. Bécue. Merci beaucoup.